You ever watch a moment on TV that doesn't just feel strange? It feels wrong? Not because it's dramatic or uncomfortable, but because it seems like everyone's pretending something very real isn't happening right in front of us? That's exactly how I felt watching the episode where Robyn Brown claimed to have given birth silently. Not a sound, not a cry, not a gasp, not even a whimper. And this wasn't just any birth, it was Ariella's, a breech baby with a broken collarbone. And we're supposed to believe that somehow, in all that pain and panic, Robyn was quiet? As if her silence was proof of strength, of purity, of submission? That wasn't inspiring. It was eerie. Hi, I'm Aliva, and welcome to TLC's Sister Wives Secret. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. And please drop a comment. I want to know your honest thoughts on what I'm about to say because we're going into some of the hardest truths behind this family that the show doesn't really want to explain. This isn't about hating. It's about finally talking about what's been hiding in plain sight. What we saw in that birth scene was more than just editing. It was control, a performance, a narrative designed to keep a certain image alive. And the more I watched, the clearer it became. Kody and Robyn's relationship doesn't just shift the dynamic. It rewrites the whole script for what it means to be a wife, a child, a person in that family. And the silence? It's not strength. It's the price you pay to survive in Kody's world. And we're just getting started. So let's talk about that silent birth. The one the show really tried to frame as beautiful, spiritual, even divine. But for those of us watching, really watching, it felt off. And honestly, kind of disturbing. Ariella's birth wasn't a peaceful walk in the park. She was breech. Her collarbone was broken during delivery. Robyn herself admitted it was hard, and yet we saw her calmly breathing, eyes closed, barely a sound coming out. The camera painted her as this angelic, stoic figure. But anyone who's ever witnessed or gone through unmedicated childbirth knows that's not how it works. Let's just be real. Natural birth is intense. It's primal. It's raw and messy and loud. You cry, you groan, you scream. Your body is doing something absolutely insane. And that pain? It takes over. The idea that Robyn, even in the middle of such a traumatic labor, was just silent. It's not just unrealistic, it's unnerving. And then there was her stepfather. Not at the head of the bed for comfort. No, he was at the foot of it. Front row seat, watching everything. How many of us would feel safe or comforted with a man we barely know sitting that close during one of the most vulnerable moments of our lives? Not to mention a man who's not even your biological parent. That doesn't scream support. That screams control, oversight. Like someone was there not to comfort, but to witness. And why? Why was that okay? That whole scene felt orchestrated, like someone wanted it to look perfect, polished, sacred. But real life? It's not sacred when it hurts that much and you're still expected to stay silent. It's performative. It's about selling a certain image of Robyn, the dutiful wife, the strong, submissive mother, the one who doesn't complain, who never challenges, who stays quiet, literally. And I want to know, how would you feel in that situation? If someone told you to suffer in silence to make others more comfortable? Would that feel like strength or control? Because to me, that wasn't about birth. That was about image. And that image has come at a huge cost. If there's one thing Sister Wives has shown us over the years, it's that Kody Brown doesn't love unconditionally. He loves when you obey, when you agree, when you fall in line. And the moment you step out of that carefully controlled script, his affection disappears. That's not fatherhood. That's manipulation. Remember Gabe? His face in that scene during COVID, red, teary, completely crushed, when he just wanted to talk to his dad. That wasn't a rebellious teenager. That was a kid who used to be Kody's little man, the one who tagged along on camping trips, laughed at his dad's jokes, looked up to him. And suddenly, because his mom Janelle didn't follow Kody's strict pandemic rules, Gabe was on the outside looking in. His crime? Wanting to see his girlfriend? Needing connection? Choosing his life over Kody's control. And Kody didn't just get upset, he snapped, He yelled. He turned Gabe's plea for understanding into a personal attack, acting like he was the victim. And it didn't stop with Gabe. Garrison, who just wanted to live like an adult and keep working, got cut off too. These weren't isolated fights. They were consequences. The moment Janelle challenged Kody's authority, her sons were no longer welcome. That's not protection. That's punishment. This pattern goes way back. Kody has always shifted his loyalty based on which wife supported his narrative. When Christine started speaking up about feeling unloved, about how neglected she felt, suddenly she was the problem, not him. When Janelle stood by her sons instead of bending to Kody's rules, she was labeled disrespectful. And let's not forget how he treated Meri after the catfishing scandal. Years of emotional distancing, cold shoulders, public humiliation, and yet he still had the nerve to tell her she had to earn his love back. It was never about protecting the family. During COVID, it wasn't about health. It was about obedience. If it were about safety, he would have been consistent. But he wasn't. He was with Robyn constantly while ignoring sick kids and skipping surgeries. He claimed he was scared, but what he really feared was losing control. And you could see it in his face every time one of the older kids stood up to him. The panic, the defensiveness. He wasn't used to being questioned, especially not by the children he once ruled over. But love that evaporates the moment you speak your truth? That's not love at all. That's power wearing a father's face. Now let's talk about Robyn's daughters, because there's something quietly unsettling about how their lives are portrayed, and more importantly, what we don't see. We're told they're so busy with school, with family, with responsibilities at home. But busy with what exactly? There's no mention of jobs, no scenes of them hanging out with friends, attending events, or even living like typical young adults. The camera doesn't follow them to part-time work, internships, or anywhere outside the house. We've seen other Sister Wives kids like Maddie, Mykelti, Logan, building real lives, stepping out into the world, taking chances. But with Robyn's daughters, it's almost like time has stopped. They're present, but not progressing. Robyn says they're helping with bedtime routines and handling a lot at home, but Ariella is almost 9 and Solomon is a teenager. At what point does that shift from helping out to carrying the parenting burden? The whole idea of being too overwhelmed with bedtime to work or have a social life, it just doesn't add up. Most college students balance classes with jobs and friends, so what's really going on? It feels like a cycle of dependence is being quietly passed down, a setup where the girls are needed to stay close, stay loyal, and not stray too far. And if you've watched the show long enough, you know that's not an accident. That's a pattern. And look, I'm not blaming the girls. They're sweet, smart, and likely doing the best they can in the environment they were raised in. But the question has to be asked, are they being sheltered or are they being stalled? Because from the outside, it looks like they're being raised not to step into the world, but to stay within it, to serve the family unit above all else. And that raises serious concerns, not just about their present, but about their future. What do you think? Do you feel like they've been given a fair shot at independence, or is something being withheld behind the scenes? Let me know in the comments, because this part, it's got a lot of us thinking. If you've watched Sister Wives from the beginning, then you've seen it. How slowly, painfully, and methodically Kody wore down the original 3 wives. It didn't happen overnight. It happened through years of subtle digs, withheld affection, shifting loyalties, and emotional games that left Meri, Christine, and Janelle questioning their worth and place in the family. Let's start with Meri. She was the first, the legal wife, the one who helped build this entire life from scratch. And what did she get in return? Isolation, public shaming. Kody told her, point blank, "I don't love you. I haven't loved you for a long time." Then he blamed her for the catfishing scandal, like she had betrayed him when really she was just so starved for attention that she turned to someone, anyone, to feel seen. And even after all that, he strung her along, told her to woo him if she wanted to win him back, only to turn around and say it was too late. That's not love. That's cruelty with a smile. Christine's journey was different, but just as painful. She always tried to be the cheerful one, the nurturer, the glue that held the chaos together. But Kody chipped away at her too. Remember when he said he was never attracted to her? That she disgusted him during pregnancy? These weren't just offhand remarks, these were weapons, emotional grenades dropped in moments of vulnerability. And yet Christine stayed for years until she realized her children deserved better. That she deserved better. Then there's Janelle, the practical one, the strong one. She handled the finances, supported the family when no one else was working, and still got told she wasn't loyal enough. When her sons needed her during COVID, she chose them, and Kody couldn't handle that. He called her disrespectful, undermined her parenting, and even suggested their entire marriage wasn't real love. And why? Because she wouldn't choose him over her children. That says it all. Everything started shifting when Robyn came into the picture. Suddenly, she was the favored wife, the only one Kody seemed to care about, the only one whose kids mattered. The rest? They became background noise, disposable. And he didn't hide it. He used finances to control, redirecting resources toward Robyn's household, while the others had to fight just to be heard. He measured loyalty like currency. If you didn't worship him, you weren't worth his time. And that's how he broke them down, not with fists, but with silence, not with shouting, but with indifference, slowly replacing love with conditions, turning wives into competitors and affection into something you had to earn. There's something that's been obvious for years now, yet somehow still gets brushed under the rug. And that's the glaring hypocrisy between how Robyn and Kody behave compared to how the other wives have always stepped up, hustled, and held the family together through thick and thin. And it's not just frustrating, it's painful to watch. Let's start with Robyn, because somehow there's always a reason she can't participate. Her back hurts. She's feeling overwhelmed. She's not well. Whether it's running errands, attending therapy sessions with the other wives, or even just helping pack during moves, there's always an excuse. But what makes it even more jarring is that she still expects full support. Everyone else is supposed to rally around her, make things easier, adjust. But when it comes to reciprocating that energy, crickets. Compare that with Christine, juggling multiple kids, moving homes, planning birthdays, cooking meals, homeschooling, and still managing to show up for everyone. Or Janelle, who handled the money, raised her kids mostly solo, worked full-time jobs, and never once asked for special treatment. These women carried the load. They built this family. And then you look at Kody, the man who loves to be in control but hates to get his hands dirty. During big family moves, while others were packing boxes and making lists, Kody was floating around, checking in, but not doing much. He once lured the kids into helping unpack at Robyn's by calling it a family meeting. 10 minutes in, the other families walked out, realizing it was just a trick to get free labor. That wasn't leadership, that was manipulation. And don't even get me started on the emotional outbursts. This man once cried like he was on his deathbed because he had a 99-degree fever, saying he saw the Grim Reaper. But when Garrison was struggling emotionally and later, when tragedy struck, where was that same energy? Where was that urgency, that drama, that overwhelming concern? He wasn't there. And not because he couldn't be, because he wouldn't. That's the real heartbreak. The selective compassion, the loud, emotional displays for minor inconveniences, then silence during real, life-altering moments. When Meri was in pain, when Janelle's boys were hurting, when Christine walked away, he found ways to make it about him. But when the kids needed a present father, or when Robyn was barely lifting a finger while others were drowning in responsibilities, he disappeared behind excuses and deflections. It's not just unfair, it's ugly. And fans see it. You see it. The loyalty is always one-sided. The effort is conditional. And for a man who built his life around the idea of family, Kody Brown sure doesn't act like someone who knows how to truly show up for one. When you step back and look at the full picture, not just the viral clips or the edited sound bites, you start to realize this isn't just a messy family struggling to get along. This is something much deeper. It's a system built on emotional control, performative love, and manipulation disguised as spiritual leadership. From the silent births that felt more like staged obedience than empowering experiences, to the heartbreaking scenes of kids like Gabe and Garrison begging for a father's love, this isn't a family where everyone gets to thrive. It's a hierarchy, and the rules are simple. Stay quiet, stay loyal, and don't question Kody, or you get cut off. Robyn, whether knowingly or not, plays her role perfectly in that system. She receives the affection, the attention, the resources, but at what cost? Her daughters seem trapped in a bubble with no outside world, no careers, no freedom. The older wives, each in their own way, were pushed aside the moment they stopped being easy to control. Cody's love isn't love in the way most of us understand it. It's a performance. And when you stop applauding, the show ends for you. But this isn't just about ex wives and broken trust. It's about kids growing up learning that love has strings, that their worth is tied to how much they agree, that independence means losing connection. And that's what really matters. Not the drama, not the gossip, but the very real lives impacted by a man's need to control and a family culture that punishes truth tellers. If you felt any of that while watching, I want to hear from you. What moment stood out to you most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with anyone who still believes the edited version of this family is the full truth. I'm Aliva, and this is TLC's Sister Wives Secret. Thanks for being here. Keep asking questions and never settle for the version of the story they want you to believe.